shading towards anarchy?
I think that's fine. I think we're smart enough to know where the boundaries are going to exist. But if we top down it with a very difficult process of development, then we'll kill that off very quickly. What we need to do is bring that on. I don't like bottom up, it's the wrong phrase, but bring it on. And people are smart. A democracy didn't come about because somebody said, in charge, we need to have democracy. It emerged, and I think an emergent process of development is scary for some, very exciting for others.
So if you don't like the phrase bottom up, how about localism? Is that a phrase that you relate to?
In a way, as soon as you apply a word to it, I'll go with emergent. I'll stick with that, and we'll see. And organic. Let's see what happens.
Well, he's trying to find out which way you vote.
I see.
Got to give the audience the last chance to come back in a minute, but because we're rapidly reaching the end of our scheduled time. Jeff, any responses? I think Craig's opened up a whole new debate, actually. But
I'll just throw it back at another level, right back to where we started the whole session, talking about resources. And I use my favourite example at the moment. So a study was done by DEFRA to show that the average parent, DEFRA, Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, have I got it right?
Mm-hmm. Not bad.
I'll just say DEFRA. They change them every week. They did a study on parish plans out there in the rural areas, and they discovered that the average plan generates 4,503 hours of community time free. I always want to know who did the three, but never mind. If you put that in what's called sweat equity rates, that's 70,000 quid from the community. A study a number of years ago generated the idea that in Bristol there are 80 natural communities, the sort that you might think of as parish. So that is, Bristol can offer 5,600,000 quid's worth of money to the city council. How's that being matched? That is a phenomenal resource, and you'll be utterly brain dead. Not to put people in place, not to write and draw plans on their own, but to go out and work with communities, liberate that phenomenal resource, and get much, much more resource available to you to generate plans that cease to be bottom up, they cease to be top down, they are properly collaborative. And that really is picking up Craig's point. It really opens up the debate into a properly joint working approach.
Okay, some challenging things there. Point at the front here, please.
Just to follow up that idea, do you think there might be a role for universities, such as the University of the West of England, to help to galvanise some of this activity that you're talking about, this wealth almost, in terms of what people are really capable of? Given that the City Council can't always act in that role, is there a role for universities perhaps to step in and do something to try to bring all this together and use those resources effectively to really make a difference to the quality of people's lives?
Okay. Anybody else got a point they want to raise? Or indeed respond to that question? Gentleman at the back.
I'm Robert Storr, a postgraduate student in Town and Country Planning. I just wanted to ask the panel about possible moral dilemma for democracy involving, when you're involving private consultants front-loading the process by having them involved in community involvement, whether that is a moral dilemma for democracy in itself, because marketing can be quite persuasive. We've all bought things we find we don't want. I bought a Nintendo Wii and haven't used it for years, but the marketing's very good. These people are very persuasive, and quite often they have their own agenda. And I just wanted to ask if you think that is a moral dilemma for the system as it stands at the moment.
Okay, that's an interesting question. Anybody else got a comment from the audience? One at the front here about university involvement.
I think using universities such as UWE, working with council and sort of creating a new urban realm is, a huge resource. Having students working on projects within our city is so important, and it's useful for students, and it's so useful for the whole community as well. So I definitely recommend more engagement with students and sort of local councils and urban design. And it's something that has worked really well in Sheffield, actually, and they've regenerated the whole city from sort of the station to sort of Sheffield University through the architecture department and the planning department. So it's something that we should be doing more of.
Yeah, some very interesting examples of that sort of thing happening in Belfast too, and not just recently, but further back. Barry, moral dilemmas.
Oh, right. There are dilemmas, I'm not sure they're moral, about using private consultants to organise community involvement. Definitely some issues. I mean, in my experience, you know, at the moment, a lot of community involvement being organised for private developers is organised by public relations firms. And I do regret that, because I think there is no place for spin, actually, in community involvement. I do think there are ways of protecting us from that, however. I do think you can set up ground rules that a private consultant organising a community involvement process would have to, you know, follow. Protocols, agreements, arrangements that they have to fit into. You can protect against the worst excesses of spin. It is a difficult one, though, but you know, it's. I don't see there's any other way, because, you know, there aren't the free resources to organise community involvement in these sorts of decisions that you were talking about, without getting private developers organising the community involvement themselves pre-application.
Right, Alison, and then I'm going to go back to Cleo, and then we're going to round up.
Thank you. There have been a couple of instances that I know about where the community has got involved in the sort of exhibition marketing side of the process. At the stage at which the questionnaire and the whole way in which the exhibition has been mounted, so that what we've been fighting is this: do you like building A, B or C best? And trying to say to them, no, you need to understand exactly why people are saying which one they like best, and so you need to redesign your questionnaire. So the community is actually, in a couple of cases, in large developments, getting involved to try and monitor the way that this marketing exercise is done, because I agree with you, otherwise it can just be a tick box, and you know, we had 67 people in and they all said they liked this one best. You know, you don't know why they liked it best, so pointless.
Claire, what response have you got?
I'd also like to come back on this sort of involving students comment, and I think that is a really important major resource that councils can actually use, and we've actually used that in Bath and North East Somerset. We had a number of student projects, and then we've actually displayed things back to the community. And in one of our towns in Keynsham, people didn't actually realise the area was a conservation area. They didn't realise there was this wealth of buildings and their history, and actually I think it started to make people think about their area in a slightly different way. So I think that's definitely something that should be encouraged.